We're all familiar with the story of the god of the heavens who impregnates a woman against her will. She gives birth to a son who goes on to visit the underworld, only to return to Earth. Of course, I could only be talking about Hercules, the son of Zeus, in what many would call Greek mythology. But in Christian mythology, as well as Hindu, Buddhist, and Norse, to name a few, we see stories like this one, as well as others, with nearly identical similarities between them, spanning thousands of years and tens of thousands of miles. Interactions between various cultures over time allowed different groups to borrow information from one another, in which they would go on to either form or enhance their own mythologies. No religion is unique, no religion is special. Disagree? Call us and let's talk about it, because the show is starting now. All right, all right. Best intro, best music theme to a show that there is. Welcome, everybody. This is Talk Heathen. Today is Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. I am your host, Jimmy Jr., but more importantly, joining me today, the one and only Dr. Ben. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dr. Ben. What's
That
going on,
is
Ben? How you doing?
totally unnecessary. Now I'm uncomfortable. No, it's going fine. It's been a hot minute since I've been here. For people who have been kind of following peripherally, I've just done a whole month on labor and delivery. The first 2 weeks were on night shift. The second 2 weeks were on day shift. And so I've been doing 80-hour weeks delivering babies. And it's been a good experience in some ways and a terrible experience in other ways, and just really busy. I'm kind of sleep deprived today, but I'm very happy to be back, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping we get some callers that want to talk about abortion today. Like I'm ready. Off a month of OB. Let's go.
Yeah.
Bring it.
I'm ready. I mean, this break has got you fired up, I can tell. So I'm ready
Yes,
to just let
yes.
you loose on everybody. It has been a while since I've seen you. You know, it's been a while since you and I have worked together. I don't think since June, as a matter of fact. So
Mhm.
you and I worked together in June. We're back together today. We're going to be together in a few weeks on November 5th, and I'm pretty sure at this point you've kind of become my unofficial babysitter, if you will. I think that you have some kind of special button that, you know, things go off the rails, you press it, I drop out, Richard pops in, and then, you know, not a second is lost and all is well. But hopefully we don't have to deal with that today. I'm sure that you're going to take care of things though, if necessary. So
Yeah, hopefully not. But I mean, I don't want to speculate too much because, that just leads to rumors and all that. And so I don't know if this is like the official reason why I'm elected to be your babysitter, but I think it has something to do with Army versus Air Force, and
yeah,
we're
yeah,
usually in first. So um
yeah, sure you are.
it's
Um,
boots on the ground, yeah.
I don't hear that as far as like the football season is going this year. So I don't know if you follow West Point at all, but they are not stepping up to Air Force in any way. But
Oh, we don't talk about that part. We don't talk about that part.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So Ben and I, ladies and gentlemen, will be together on our pre-Veterans Day show, where we get to kind of bust each other's chops, but also invite military veterans to call in and talk about their experiences being in the military and maybe being an atheist or dealing with religion. But I'm totally looking forward to that. And yeah, just a lot of fun things going on, a lot of fun things planned. It's a good time of year.
Indeed,
But
indeed.
before we get to our more scripted segments or our calls, if you will, I want to just remind everybody that Talk Heathen is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Talk Heathen is a live call-in show, and yes, we do have open lines. So get your calls in at 512-991-9242 or from your computer at tiny.cc/call th. And I am really hoping that we get some calls. In particular, I did invite some people to call me. We had some comment and chat lurkers from past shows. I had a conversation with a really nice person on Twitter and asked her if she would call and kind of discuss in a very friendly manner her beliefs, and she said she would. So hopefully we hear from her today, and hopefully we hear from some of these chat lurkers that always have stuff to say but never want to call. So before we get into that, though, it is time for Talk Heathen to Me, where we get into the question of the week. Last week, we asked you, name something God didn't do but took credit for. And at
Ooh.
number 3, we have Sirele, something the Abrahamic God takes credit for. The blasted burning bush. We all know Moses just got high and lost track of his pipe. I thought that was a really good answer. Ben, what do you have to say on that? Any comments there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could read that story and just assume there weren't drugs playing a part
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, for sure. Not only did he lose track of his pipe, but I think he just got so high he thought the bush was burning and talking to him. So
Maybe Moses was smoking the bush. Like maybe maybe the bush was burning because that's what he was smoking. Like how do we know? How do we know he wasn't putting the bush into his pipe?
He was trying to just tell people how good the bush was. You know, this bush
Right.
really talks to me, man.
I mean, we don't know what kind of bush it was either. So
number 2, Rick Reason. Sounds like maybe a superhero name or I don't know, wrestling. God falsely takes credit for the emancipation movement, which is rather ironic considering its views on slavery. Yeah, I have to say the book that was used to justify slavery and then also used to justify the end of slavery, really, it doesn't compute in my mind. I don't know. What do you think about that, Ben?
yeah, I agree. Like religion was the problem in the first place, or at least one of them. I'm not saying that there aren't other groups of people that weren't religious that still had slaves. I mean, people just did that for all terrible reasons. But religion being a primary reason why slavery even happened in the first place, it's like we created this problem, and you should like you should worship this God and respect this religion because they ended the problem that they caused. It's it's very abusive in a way.
Yeah, slavery. While the Bible in this country specifically, and slave owners and traders pointed to it to say, this is where our justification lies. What was God doing for the millennia upon millennia before that Bible was there? I mean, the emancipation movement could have taken place long ago. We know that slavery was a part of life across the world, hands down. Any region, any country that you look at, it had its own variation. So
right, and God also could have just not picked a group of people to be his favorite, and then made everybody else just as like. Why would you even make these other people if you only wanted this one group? Like it just doesn't really check out.
Number 1, Miranda Rensberger. Heard that name before. Thanks for coming back, Miranda. Something God didn't do but takes credit for. Putting fake dinosaur fossils in the Earth's crust to confuse us about the age of the Earth. I knew that was God. I knew that was up. That he was up to something. But I don't know. I always thought Satan was doing that. So a little bit of confusion there.
Yeah, the Christian God really is a trickster God, probably.
Yeah.
Like I mean, just look at everything in the Bible. I'm convinced that maybe the Christian God is more on par with like Loki or some other deity versus this benevolent deity.
Yeah. Well, maybe someday he'll show up and explain, but until then, we're going to keep doing questions of the week and try and get to the bottom of what's going on. So, the question for next week is: you are in hell. What is your job? Enter your answer below in the video, in the comments, and next week we reveal the top 3 answers. But first, let me ask you, Ben, as co-host, it is your duty to take the first shot. So, you're in hell. What is your job?
I think my job in hell would be editing videos for PragerU. Like just having to not being able to change any of the content, but just having to sit through all of that content and just make videos for them. Like that'd be the worst.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, it would have to be like the commissioner of the fire department in hell. Not only am I in charge of putting out fires, but I'm in charge of everybody else who's in charge of putting out fires. That seems like a daunting task. But yeah, great answer. I am anxious to see what our audience comes up with next week. Remember, in the comment section, give us your best answer. Tune in next week, and we will reveal our top 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, we have open lines, but we do have some calls we're excited to get into. Before we do that, we have to give credit where it's due to the people who make this all possible, people and animals. And I want to jump to the crew cam if we can. There we go. There we go. That cat's the hardest working one of the bunch, but
There's also
what's going on?
That dog too. Crew
Thanks,
dog
everybody.
crew dog is very offended that crew cat gets priority. Crew dog is working hard too.
Yeah, I don't know. The cat has worked himself to sleep. Each week, every week, the cat. It's clear that he's exhausted. So, but yeah, can't make it happen. Ben and I don't just show up and make this all work. Actually, if we were the only ones who showed up, there'd be no show. We'd be in a lot of trouble. So, thanks to everybody who is constantly on our tails, making sure we're doing the right thing. So, yeah, I think that brings us to the point of this whole endeavor. What do you say, Ben? You ready for a call?
Yeah, let's take a call.
All right. We are going to go with, man, it looks like he likes to be called Krazy Jerry in Michigan. He, him. Says science in the Bible, for example, Jesus on the cross had water spill out of his chest area. All right, Krazy Jerry, you are on with Jimmy and Ben. What is going on? Oh, excuse me.
Doctor.
All right. Well,
hey, Jimmy, Dr. Ben.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, not much. Yeah, I've been atheist probably since I was a little kid because I never really believed in anything. And, I always been told, you got to believe this, you got to believe that, And then in school, I was not really a science wizard because I can never remember anything. But when it comes to something, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember this, I remember that. And, and I just, lately I've been getting into the science of, religion, how, religion says, oh, we have the science, we have the facts, and all this. And somebody did the having Jesus into his ribs and the water came out. And I, used to hang around a friend of mine that, worked at the morgue. And I remember water coming out, and I remember asking him, what's that? He goes, oh yeah, water comes out after they've been dead. And when that was in the Bible, they had that in there. One of the shows I was watching about proving, this is how we know, there's science in the Bible, and they, this is the proof that, existence that, they knew stuff in the Bible about science. It kind of blew my mind, but I'm just kind of like, wondering, how do they know that back then? They know that, you know what I mean?
Well, it's not. I mean, okay, think about this for a second. Like, sure, you might not have known that water comes out of dead bodies when you stab them. But think about back then, they had people die all the time. We've had people dying since the beginning of humanity. And you don't need to be a scientist to know that when you stab a person after they've been dead for a while, that water might come out. Like they reasonably could be trying this because they've stabbed a lot of people since the beginning of humanity. So it's really not a scientific miracle or anything that they would know this to be true. They could know this from experience. Like there are lots of things that they didn't necessarily know how to explain back then, but they knew that it happened. It's like if you said that, well, the Bible's true because they knew that people bleed. Like, okay, but we know that people bleed. Like we've always known that. Like we know that people have eyes. Like we know that people have certain features. That's not really miraculous. And so even if now we understand more of the mechanism of why water might come out first, because we know it's related to gravity, and if you're not pumping blood, you have cells that kind of coagulate together and then will pool like at the bottom of whatever's facing like downward. And so you get this density difference and cell matter staying behind and stuff. But even if we didn't know that, we still would know that by experience, these things are true, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Krazy Jerry, what do you have
You know,
to say to that?
Yeah, well, I kind of thought that, that our body, since it's made up of water, that would kind of happen. But my thing is like, well, you kind of said that, Dr. Ben, about, they would know that because they've had a lot of bodies, they've stabbed bodies before and, things like that. But wouldn't they basically just say, oh, he bled, but it was more of a,
well, no, because bleeding, because bleeding implies a red color. It implies sanguineous drainage, and we're talking about serous drainage, which is different. Like, because you don't always have blood, you have a lot of body fluids, and so if you separate out like the cell matter of blood versus like plasma, like plasma doesn't look to be blood. And so if they didn't know back then that there were more components to blood, they just saw this is a different color than this other matter. They probably wouldn't have said that it was bleeding, but they might have said water, because it does look like water. Like oftentimes maybe it's a bit more yellow, but they would probably more closely associate that to like dirty water versus blood. So I think the communication of that in the Bible isn't necessarily them making a scientific claim. It's them saying an observation of like, this is what we saw, and they could relate this to being water.
Yeah, Jerry. So like Ben said, this doesn't seem to be all that scientific, right? People were probably experimenting on bodies for a long time just to kind of see what it was made up of and what happened after life had ceased to be there. We know that the Greeks did this. They had this really, really incorrect kind of characterization of the body for a long time called the humeruses, and the different components of the body that were later completely rebuffed and reclassified by more scientific means as our understanding got a little bit better. But when you called in, you used the term the science of religion, and so you haven't really kind of posited anything too scientific. So I'm kind of wondering what you meant by that term, the science of religion. Is there some kind of larger connection that you have, or some observation that you've made where you see some kind of scientific consistency across religion?
Well, it's just that, today, with, I don't want to use, I'm just doing with one of the people that I use is these creationist religion, how they're using, oh, well, we can prove science with creation. We can prove science with, things that happen, after creation. It's all in the Bible. Science is in the Bible. And now, I don't really believe that they had the knowledge that we have today, but they're showing it that, oh, yeah, we did. And I don't believe it that way. But then when they make up a pretty good claim, then I get confused. I mean, I have, I don't want to, to people, when you meet me, you don't think I have, a disability, but I do. And I know Jim Barrows has mentioned too that he has, he has attention deficit. I have that too, along with some other stuff. But I don't have, when I think about God, I don't like, okay, he's this, guy that's going to be watching me all the time, that he could strike me down for saying something and doing
hold on.
I might think
I want to just let's keep it on track, Jerry, for a second, if I may.
No, I am. I'm telling you how I feel. So when I hear these things, okay, I'm kind of like, okay, is this why I should believe in God? And then I'm like, but I don't believe in God. So I'm going back and forth. If you can prove something to me, is this going to change my mind to the way I should believe? But I don't.
No, this shouldn't. This shouldn't.
I don't believe in the things that are in the Bible.
Yeah, no, this shouldn't. This shouldn't change your mind.
And I was
before. Jerry, can you hear me? This should not change your mind, because not like simply a claim being true in the Bible is not the same as the thought process getting to truth being correct. So like if you were to roll some dice, like I could say I think that this die is going to land on the number 5, and I can roll that die and it might be the number 5, and I might be right. Did I do anything special to predict that it was going to land on 5? No, it just happened to be that way. And I could get lucky and I could like roll the die a few more times and maybe they'll all be 5s. Like, is it less likely? Yeah, but it is still possible. It's not anything outside of reality. There's nothing like, except for maybe like, even if I said like the die was weighted to land on 5, that's still something that is within like natural reality. There's no supernatural force that stepped in to make it go to the number 5. And I still am not a psychic predicting this to happen. So I guess like a statement that you made that has me question is the fact that you had said that the Bible proves science. And that's kind of a backward way to look at this, right? So science is a method to evaluate truth. So we can't use the claim to prove the method that you're using. So that's just a little bit inconsistent, right? We should start with a question. So like, if you, I kind of even want to play a little game here with you. Let's take something in the Bible that you think is giving you a question. Could you think of a question statement in your mind of what thing you're wanting to investigate?
Well, the thing is, you said that I said the Bible, had proved science. I don't really believe that, but I investigate that, and then it kind of makes sense to me. But then I kind of question the other things in the Bible.
But do you not prove? I don't think you're understanding that it's the statement. It's not whether or not the Bible actually proves science. I'm saying that is backwards. That's backwards way of thinking about it. Science is not something that you can prove because science isn't an ideology. Science isn't an actual fact. Like science is a method used to establish whether claims are true or not. So,
right,
like you can use science.
What I'm doing, but
right. So it's not. So it's a claim is not going to prove.
I move on to something else.
No,
proves credibility or
no. So you're not getting like science. You cannot use a claim to prove a method. Like, does that make sense to you? Like, you cannot use like Christianity cannot prove a method. Like, let me try to rephrase this. Like, can you prove philosophy is true? Does that make sense as a statement at all? No, because philosophy is a way that you think about things. So like philosophy isn't a claim in itself, but you use philosophy to get to like being convinced or not of certain things being true. That's kind of the same thing with science. Like philosophy and science are very similar in they're investigating truth, but they just do it from slightly different angles. And I mean, there's the whole conversation of science coming from a branch of philosophy. But it's odd. It would be odd for me to say like that Christianity proves philosophy. That's because that's just it's very weird. So can we flip the question to be, I don't know, maybe I'm confused about what you're trying to say here.
And I want to just kind of ask Jerry, because you had responded to Ben's initial remark and you said, I'm not really a believer, but then they make these really good points and I have to ask myself, or you have to reconsider. And Ben kind of gave you a breakdown of why they might have known what happens to the human body after it dies. So what are the other good points where you think that there is some kind of, scientific basis for religion? I don't think you're getting anywhere with the idea of water coming out of the chest, but is there something else that maybe might cause you to rethink what a religion might say because it adheres to the scientific method?
Well, one of the things that I'm suffering from now is dementia. So I can't remember a lot of them, but when I hear them, I'm kind of like, oh yeah. But then 2 or 3 days later, I kind of like start forgetting. But then I'm kind of like, I've been so long not, believing in God, so I go back to that kind of thinking. But then when I hear somebody say something, or, I'm watching your show and I hear somebody make a comment about something, or, talk about their beliefs, as I'm trying to keep, myself in my, I don't know if I just should say state of mind, or, just my, belief, or not even really belief, but I don't like using that word. I try not to use it, but it's so much around me with my family and friends that, still have that concept of, a God. I end up saying it, but it, my conviction and, of no God, it's hard not to hear things and see things about them talking about sciences and things like that, and things come up. But the reason why I really called in, because the thing about the water is because I kind of knew about that, but then I always hear things about, well, they didn't know these things back in the Bible. They did. And then I know this is going to be a real quick flip. I know I kind of do this, but I remember hearing the one time on the show about, Jesus talked about, oh, it's this and this and this, because he didn't know that if you washed your hands, you could get rid of these diseases. Do you understand what I'm kind of talking about? I think you do, Dr. Ben.
Yeah, but it's just
I
odd. Like
understand.
it's odd when people assume that people back then were just stupid, because that's not
Yeah.
true. Like humans
Yeah.
have been very, very intelligent. In fact, looking back at these civilizations back then, they figured a lot of things out on their own. And it's just the fact that they had different understanding of the way things work doesn't mean that they didn't end up doing the correct things, even if it was for a less good reason.
Jimmy's
So
that
if they
about
washed their
washing
hands,
but
like they didn't. No, Jared, like listen. So they didn't understand necessarily what germs were, but they could know reasonably that I was doing work and my hands got dirty. I was uncomfortable with my hands being dirty. If I keep my hands dirty and I touch other people, I see that people start getting sick. Like, they don't need to understand the germs necessarily, but they can at least make the connection of my hands were dirty, and then I was uncomfortable,
see,
and then bad things happened.
thought it was demons. See, Jesus thought they were passing along demons.
No, not
No,
necessarily.
no. But also that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant, because the action of
No, I know.
washing their hands was whether or not what they thought the reason was behind washing their hands. They ended up seeing washing their hands as a way to prevent negative things from happening, and so they did that. They might have thought they were washing away the demons, and that's maybe not a correct reason to believe that washing your hands is a good idea. But regardless, they ended up washing their hands and it ended up having a better outcome. So it's not to say that like they knew everything about the situation, but they could at least draw enough connections to start making advances in their society and making advances in how they clean themselves. Like that's not something mind-blowing to me.
And Jerry, human history goes back a long way before we start to see the propagation of religion, the propagation of Christianity. We know that people didn't know why they would die from eating something. They just knew that they shouldn't because they would die. Even in a little bit closer to our own time, I mean, smallpox vaccinations, for example, back in the 1700s, people didn't really understand how they were able to kind of stop a disease from spreading by maybe creating a vaccine, or even that they were creating a vaccine to the level that we understand it today. But they just knew that, all right, from my observations, this is what I've seen. And so let's try and recreate and make those observations work. Let's reproduce them and see what the benefit could be. And sometimes there was a benefit, sometimes there wasn't. But we see things like this all throughout human history. And, this idea of, Jesus being speared after he was dead, whether you're talking about this or the Roman soldier kind of cutting into him, I kind of wanted to just get back to the intro that I gave when we talked about the similarities, where I talked about the similarities between different religions. We've seen this in other religions where, for example, in Norse mythology, Odin, was speared after he was dead. And it's just an indication that these religions, not only do they build off of each other across time and space, but people in different regions are having kind of these same observations because people just do what people do. We try and learn about our circumstances, and then we talk about them. And so whether or not the story of Jesus is kind of predicated on some other story that came before it, or it was something that simultaneously happened while other people were kind of experiencing the same phenomena with the human body, uh, it's really irrelevant. We just know that it was happening, and that we have evidence of it being in the Bible because, well, they knew it happened. You said, people in the Bible didn't know this, but you got it from the Bible. And we get these from other places that are stories that are centuries upon millennia old. And, we have this idea that people kind of knew at a very baseline level what was happening, especially with the human body. So I don't know. Any remarks on that? I don't know if we're getting anywhere anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did. You hit on a lot of things. It's kind of like, it kind of helps me answer the questions when it's brought up to me and stuff. Is like, what can I say? And that's where I want to know. I mean, see, the more I hear the positive side of things, or how do I redirect, it helps me, because I get lost and I don't know what to say. And then they make me like, oh, see, you, like I hear on your show a lot of times that people call in, oh, see, you guys do believe in God. You do believe. And I hate when people do that to me. And I know you guys just like it too. If I would like to say to Ben, oh, I know you believe, Ben. I know you believe in God, and you don't. You just like when people try to tell you, what you're thinking. And I don't like people doing that to me either, trying to tell me what I think when they don't know what I think. When I don't believe in God. But when they throw something at me, it's like throwing a dog a bone and say, look, that dog's going to go to that bone. But I don't want to go to it because I don't believe it anymore. But yet I kind of get trapped in it, and I'm like, I want to find out more. And then if I go that way, then they see, like, look, see, you believe in God. You want to find out more. You want to find out more. Well, I'm finding out more so I can find out how I can redirect it, so I can show them that they're wrong too. That there is no
I
God,
think,
and show them.
I think maybe you just need to take Jerry, I think you need to take a different approach to the discussion. And if you're not sure about where to go with it, you can always sit back and ask questions. Like, that's one of the best ways to kind of understand how they're thinking about this. So that would be my recommendation, is just, if they make a claim, you can just turn it back around and say, how do you know that these are connected? Or how do you know that this is the cause of that? Like, for example, like if people say, well, the water coming from Jesus after he died is evidence that the Bible is true, you can ask them, how do you know these are connected? How do you know that the Bible being true is what means that this happened? Or even other ways around of looking at it. Like, because they made a connection in their brains. And I say this a lot. It's something I kind of call cognitive laziness. Where it's basically intuition, where you go from point A to point D, and you don't really think about how you got there, because your brain's making all these connections, and you don't necessarily think about all of the steps that your brain is taking to get there. And so oftentimes people will make these connections, but really they're not actually connected. So trying to explore with questioning, asking like, how can I kind of tease out whether or not there's a relationship here, might be the more helpful way to engage in that conversation. And I think Jimmy can agree with that too. But maybe instead of just like, when a point is given to you, and instead of just jumping for it and going straight for, hey, this might be legitimate, like, ask some questions first, think about how you can understand the thought process that they're coming from. And that's probably how I would handle this.
Yeah. Jerry, I'm going to give you a chance to wrap up, but I just want to say, you can also do your own research. I think that's a great thing about the times that we live in today. Information is accessible. And when you hear something that doesn't make sense to you or makes you rethink, try and prove it wrong. try and poke holes in your own theory. I know that as a military intelligence analyst, when I was doing that job, that I had to come up with assessments that I had to give to people that would use to make really important decisions. And I had to make sure that it was bulletproof, at least as bulletproof as I could. And even my own conclusions, I had to kind of poke holes through, right? I had to ask myself where I was wrong. And you can not only do that with your own thoughts, but with the things that people are telling you as well. If somebody is trying to tell you, well, here's what I believe, and it's a really good argument, and here's why, I concur with what Ben said. You can ask questions, but you can also go find other sources outside of that person that's giving you this answer. So I think that's all I have to add on that. I really appreciate your call. This was a great discussion, and I hope we get to hear from you again. I'm going to give you the last word, and then we are going to move on, Jerry.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And I usually try to do that, try to, investigate things, but sometimes I get confused with things, and I'm glad you guys have these shows, and I will call in again. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Great. Yeah, that was good. Krazy Jerry calling in. So we appreciate that call. But before we get into any more calls, we are going to get through some announcements. And we have a brand new and exciting way to support the ACA. Buy an engraved brick and become a part of the library's legacy. Check out this video.
Have you ever wanted to make a permanent impact on the atheist community of Austin? Help support our space for free thought by buying a custom engraved brick to be laid on the building grounds to help raise funds for improvements. Our building has stood as a beacon for years, bringing people together. But 3 years of emptiness due to the pandemic have taken a toll, leaving it in disrepair. Help us restore this hub of connection and support by buying a brick. Moses had his stone tablets, but we're doing our own version. Join our brick fundraiser and let your engraved messages stand the test of time, minus commandments. Visit tiny.cc/ACA bricks for more information.
All right. Yeah, I have to get my brick. Something I keep meaning to bring up to my wife. I got to tell her, sweetheart, we need to get some bricks. We need to get some bricks. But not only can you support the ACA in that way, we have our new limited edition t-shirt. No words, just a graphic. Visit tiny.cc/merch ACA to get them now. And we've got the hand of hell bringing a phone right out, daring you to call into the show, which I think more people should do. So we're looking forward to hearing from you, and make sure you go and get yourself a shirt in the meantime. Available on tiny.cc/ACA flyers are printable call-in flyers. Post these with permission to community bulletin boards so people know they should call our show and defend their faith. If you do post any flyers, make sure you take a snap of it and make sure it's in a place that, again, you're able to do so. Send it to tv@atheist-community.org, and we may feature your photo on an upcoming show. And if you happen to be in the Austin area on October 29th, 2023, it's a Sunday, then please join us for the live broadcasts of Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience. Talk Heathen will be hosted by Christy Powell and Johnny P. Angel, and the Atheist Experience hosted again by the wonderful Johnny P. Angel and Sophia Spina. Doors open at noon, and we hope to see you there. The ACA wants you to know what is going on in our community, and for that, we've got an updated website. Head to www.atheist-community.org, where you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. We do want to hear from you. We want to know what you liked, what you thought was effective, and more importantly, what you thought we could do better. Plenty of room for me. So go ahead and give me feedback and let me know how I can be a better host so I can make you kind of tune in and call in and want to talk to me. Email us at tv@atheist-community.org and let us know. All right. Well, that brings us to our next caller. So we are going to jump right in, and we are going to talk to Matthew. No pronouns given, but calling from Oklahoma. I'm glad to see that Matthew is calling because I did speak to him in a chat recently, or in the comment section of my last video, and I requested that he call in and maybe further discuss with Ben and I what he meant when he wanted to address my comment on the atrocities of slavery. So let's talk to Matthew. Go ahead. Matthew, you are on.
I am here. I am
All
on.
right. All right.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm so glad to hear from you. I always think it's wonderful when somebody is engaged in the chat or in the comments, and they find it, they find themselves in a position where they're comfortable calling in. I know that could be a big leap for people, but what was on your mind, Matthew?
Comfortable would be an overshot of words, sir. But we're here, and I'm here.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, I mean, first off, man, I'm a simpleton. I'm actually from Texas. I live in Oklahoma. I'm training to be an electrician. I am a simpleton, and there are a lot of things that I don't know. But first off, I got to say I apologize for coming at you so harshly. And I appreciate your service. I heard you in your last call that you were a military serviceman. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Though there are things that we don't agree on, I'm sure there are things that we do agree on. And there's two gentlemen. Well, I guess three, because, hello, Ben, how you doing?
Hi. I'm part of this conversation, too, in case you didn't know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you doing?
Doing all right.
I mean, no disrespect or nothing. I just, when I don't even
Matthew,
know
I'm going to help you along here. I'm going to help you along. I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to make sure that we get to the topic, right? So, like, I know that you have a lot you want to say, and I'm happy to go down that road. But my intro, hold on one sec. My intro to the last show that you saw me do was me quoting Genesis 16, telling the story about Abraham. And people who are familiar with my work have heard me talk about that story before. That is a very significant story, I think, in the Bible. But more importantly, the point I was making on that particular show was that I believe that is one of the earliest times in the Bible that we see God not only condone slavery, but dare I say rape. I hate that word. But we see that, and we know that God did nothing to stop it. And so that is a problem for me when I have to consider God as the moral authority in our universe, which is an idea that many would support. And so, having said that, Matthew, what is your take on my idea that God was supportive of rape, slavery, abuses to children, all things that I think are evident in that story?
Alive? How long
Pardon
has
me?
the human race been around that we know of? How long has the human race been around that we know of?
There are differing numbers that I'm familiar with. I think
the conscious.
Hold on. Listen. The human species, as I understand it, and Ben, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the agreed upon number is somewhere between 200 and 250,000 years.
That's what I would. I would put it around there.
So we have human beings as we know them today. I could go back 200,000 years and I could meet somebody who looks just like myself or Ben, and they might not be none the wiser as to what time period I come from. Okay.
Let's just go back couple grand. Let's just go back a couple thousand years. Okay. About
good.
Years. That way let's go back to at least right before. Yeah. Okay. 2,000 years. Let's go back to right around Jesus's time. And that way we have a good explanation of our own, whether you were a follower, whether you were a Gentile or Jew.
Okay.
Whether
all right.
you do anything.
Go ahead. Drop some knowledge.
Had a moral aptitude of pain and right and wrong. Okay. And so we have about, trillions upon trillions of countless, examples of pain and trouble and wrongness that we could blame God on constantly. Heck, man, I got at least 500 stories of my own in my own life that I could ask, why did you let this happen? Now you back up and you look forward to the beginning, in the very beginning of Genesis 1, when he says, we have created all of us in our own image. He created all of us in our own image. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that right there, to me, in my faith, that I'm going to be defending is as a Christian, as a Judeo-Christian, a man who, if you could really break it down, could understand that the Jews are the beloved people, and the Gentiles can be are beloved too, and can be a part of that same. You can be a part of that same love.
Jerry,
Hey,
I'm
Matthew.
sorry. Excuse me, you're not
Matthew.
Jerry. Yeah. Matthew.
So,
Hey, Matthew.
wait,
I have a question for you, kind of going along that. Okay, so are you? Let me just ask you a couple questions. Do you think, like you just said that you believe that the Jews were the chosen people, but then Gentiles are also loved by God. So do you believe humans are loved by God?
yes, humans are loved by God.
Do you believe genocide is ever okay?
No.
Have you read your Bible?
Do I question? Yes, I have. Now,
Have you read about the genocides committed in your Bible that were directed by God? God commanded the genocide of multiple people groups. Why? So you said, hold on. So Matthew, you said,
Matthew, let him talk. Let you'll have your turn.
you said genocide is not okay, right? Do you still believe genocide is never okay?
Condoned by evil and not by God himself. I cannot explain when or how.
Is it,
or what.
Matthew, you are dodging the question. Is it ever okay to commit genocide? No. Okay. So your deity that commanded for the genocide of people did something that is not moral. Is that correct?
No, that's not. No, what you're asking me is a turnaround question. My God is moral.
How?
And whatever decisions that my God makes, and whatever decisions that the God
Matthew, you just contradict your. I'm gonna. Okay.
Makes.
Yeah, Matthew, I just muted you because you just said that genocide is never okay, but then you said genocide is okay if God commits it because everything he does is moral. So that's not consistent, right? So you contradicted yourself. So you have to explain why you're okay with that contradiction and why God gets a free pass to commit genocide, but it's wrong for everybody else. How is that consistent for you? I'm going to unmute you. You're back.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Thank you. To understand your question, I had to step back and listen myself, and I appreciate you muting me. Gave me a chance to stop. My God has nothing but morals. He is your God too.
But you just said that genocide is wrong.
If you read,
we're not going to turn this. Matthew, we are not turning this into a platform where you can come on and try and preach to us. We just want you to answer the questions
I'm defending my faith. You said it in the beginning. Heck, you even have a.
You are not, Matthew. You are not answering my question.
Do you believe in hell? Do you believe in hell?
No.
Do you believe in God at all?
Matthew,
no.
And stop dodging. I'm going to mute your ass again. Stop. No, because you have not addressed the contradiction that you made. That's what I want you to focus on. And I know that you are dodging this point because you have to face this contradiction, right? It's a contradiction. We pointed this out. You cannot just use other arguments now to avoid the fact that you made a contradiction. So please, I'm going to unmute you. Explain how this can be moral if you said that the same action is not moral. You're back.
Whatever decision God made in the past, present, or future, he has that right to make that. And who are you to question it? I want you to create a world. I want you to create the Big Bang.
That's not answering my question. So Matthew, okay. So Matthew, no. Okay. So you think that genocide is okay in some circumstances? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Am I muted?
No, you're not muted. You're here. So you're saying
I'm
genocide is
saying-
okay in some
I'm
circumstances?
asking you. I'm saying I'm not God, and I'm saying there are decisions that I wouldn't even know how to fathom to make. And same for you, buddy.
Is it okay to murder innocent people?
As a human being, no, it's not. I cannot.
Why is it okay for God to do that? Did those children
Ask him
back
that
in those
question.
Bible days?
Have you
So
asked
think
God
about it. It was not.
Let me ask you.
It was not just
All right.
you, Matthew.
all right.
You're not listening.
Matthew's muted. Matthew is muted. So
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do real quick. I'm sorry, Ben, but Matthew, so you called in and you apologized to me in the beginning for going hard at me or being so harsh with me in the comments. I really didn't require an apology. You know, I was really happy to hear from you, and I'm happy to hear from you now. But you know, you are not really being honest with us. We are asking you questions, and you are starting to get, you know, a little bit more harsh, and there's really no reason for that kind of talk. You know, just listen to what Ben is saying and then follow that up with an answer to that question. If you can't do that, then there's no reason that we need to stay on this call, and I don't want to drop you. So listen to what Ben is saying, and I am unmuting you, and you are good to go.
I am going to give you the exact same answer I have been giving. As a human being, no. Are you a deity? Are you the creator of all? I cannot answer for God.
That's avoiding.
I
That
do
is
know that
avoiding.
the Bible is how.
So you
How?
think okay? No. So analyze your points here. So, like, let's think about everything that went into the genocides in the Bible,
What-
right? Like, this was not.
At this point,
Ju-
can we
Well,
back
no,
up? Hold on, pause.
Matthew, stop talking. You're pissing me the fuck off. Stop talking and listen for a moment. If you have, so a lot of the wars back in the Bible, definitely you had men versus men who were engaged in armed combat. That was the thing that happened. But other things that happened were the unnecessary deaths of women, children, babies, pregnant people, everybody. And like God told the Israelites to kill every single person in these civilizations. Is it ever okay? I don't care who is making this call. I would say my position says genocide is never okay. And I don't care who's telling you it's okay to kill babies and to kill young children and to kill innocent people.
Wow.
That's never okay. So you have asserted that it is okay in some circumstances to do that. You are saying that it is morally acceptable to, at the direction of a deity, which we don't even have evidence exists, you're saying that that is okay to go murder innocent children. How is that okay for you?
Nope, never said that. I never said that.
So
You
Matthew,
did.
what you did say is that no matter what your God decides, that is okay. That's what you said. And our response to
I say
that
that my
is
Bible
God.
is 100% true, and you people are crazy. And
You know, Matthew,
right, well-
I'm not
Have a
convinced.
great
I'm not convinced you've read Matthew. I'm not convinced you've read
Goodbye.
your Bible. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
he's-
convinced he's read it.
Well, Matthew is no longer with us, so we are going to move on. And we got some things we want to do. So, you know, let me just reflect on that for a second. You know, Matthew called in and he kind of posited himself as this person who, you know, admitted he's got a lot to learn and he wants to have a very civil and cordial conversation. And when faced with a need to give a response that was clear cut, he turned to insults and harsh language and kind of, you know, we had to let him go. And it's unfortunate because we had an opportunity there to make some ground and to kind of understand each other. And instead he chose to kind of go off the deep end. And he's never going to kind of get that understanding, that conversation that maybe he was looking for when he got here. He just was looking for a way to preach. So that's really frustrating because we wasted a lot of time and we could have been talking to somebody else who generally wants to like get to know us and have a good discussion. So before we get to the next person who is definitely going to be better than that last call, I want to take some time and announce our top 5 patrons of the week. All right. So our patrons of the week, if you want to be a patron just like them, you can visit tiny.cc/Patreon-TH. And Ben, since last time when we worked together, you made me read the patrons of the week and wanted to see how bad I'd butcher the names. So now it's revenge. And you're going to have to try and get these correct. So why don't you, why don't you give it a go?
The top 5 patrons of this week are Dingleberry Jackson, Oops, All Singularity, Devor Valjan, Kalevi Helveti, and Left in the Leaves, and an honorable mention by Paul Sherman. And I have to say, I'm very proud of the fact that I pronounced Paul Sherman correctly. It's a very difficult name. But if any of you want your names to be read out live on this show, you can compete for the top 5 and technically top 6, because we always have that honorable mention. But make sure you get your name in. And even if you have a fun internet name that you want to use and make it confusing for us, you can totally do that. That's fair game.
Yeah, that's actually a really good suggestion. You know, I had a thought before the show. Well, Dingleberry Jackson, number one, ACA royalty, Talk Heathen royalty, right? Oops, All Singularity, the same thing. Devor Valjean, I say it different. You said Devor Valjean. You know what? I never want Devor to call in and correct us on how to do it. I want there to be a consistent argument on who says it the right way. You know, I want us to fight about this and, you know, have different sects. And you know, we can just fight each other forever on how to do it properly. So it would seem appropriate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we're going to start different divisions within ACA based on who pronounces the patrons the correct way. And we'll never know the correct answer. Never.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So Devor, good work. Keep following us. We do have a super chat, and I want to shout out Miranda Rensberger, who was also in our top 3 today for Talk Heathen to me, but she gave $10. Dr. Ben, I know that as a first-year resident, you work all the nights and weekends and holidays, and sleep is a luxury to you. Excuse me, sleep is a luxury you fantasize about having someday. I'm glad you have the time to be here today. So that sounds like a really grateful person, a big fan of yours, Ben.
Yeah, thank you for that super chat. It's very good to see you here, and it's amazing to be back. And I'm really excited that we've had some spicier calls today. I always love to see that. So I'm excited to get into some more. Oh, I guess there's another super chat too.
Yeah. Ben, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
We have a super chat from Less Than Lucid, which I love that name. 666 says, "Ooh, happy Ace Awareness Week. Remember, asexuals, no criming this week. You are visible." I love that comment. And yes, we love our ace community here. And you are constantly being watched, so no crime this week. You can crime again next week, but not right now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's great. I love to see the the participation. I love to see people kind of getting involved and reaching out and supporting the ACA. With that, though, we are ready to move on to this conversation in any way. So having said that, I am going to read another super chat, and that comes from the wonderful Hell's Bells, who gives a donation of $6.65. So she's quite not evil. She's a little evil. I mean, we can all agree on that, but not quite as evil as our more satanic people. But hi, Jimmy. You can't accuse me of avoiding you now. Well, I could still accuse you, but I might be wrong. And hi, Ben. Always awesome to see you. So yeah, good to hear from Hell's Bells.
Hi,
love
Hell's
working
Bells.
with her. Yeah. I haven't worked with her in a while, and I accused her of avoiding me on nonprofits. And hopefully I get to see her again real soon.
So this is, I mean, a little bit of a sidetrack, but I know people will not be angry at me for shilling one of the best shows within the atheist community of Austin, the nonprofits. So if you also don't want to be accused of avoiding people, then you should tune into the nonprofits. And that's, they're not paying me to say that. I'm okay. They're not holding me hostage to say that. It's honestly a very good show, and you all should watch.
Yeah, and I'm glad Ben said that, because I'm actually going to be on this week. So you'll get to see me posit more of my ideas, whether you agree with them or not. And who knows, next time I'm on, you can call me and tell me what you agreed with and what you didn't. So, having said that, we have got another caller, Serial, who goes not by her, not by him, but by it. And Serial is calling from Pennsylvania. Serial is an atheist and wants to respond to Jimmy's poll. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's take Serial and see what it has to say. Serial, how you doing?
Hey, you got me. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing great.
Can you hear me?
I don't know if you're following. Yeah, we can hear you, and I don't know how closely you've been following, but we're having quite the array of spicy calls today. So
I've been having a kick. Really, I'm having the best time.
All right. Well, I want you to continue having a good time, and I really want you to make this one count. Okay.
Mhm.
We're gonna give you some time to make a good argument. You're gonna make a good argument right now. You are going to tell us what it is you believe and why, and in the fashion in which you'll be responding to the chat poll. So go right ahead.
Sure. Well, first of all, I answered the chat poll, yes, and I'll call the show. Woo! And so I'm a Unitarian Universalist, right?
Yeah.
No jokes? Okay.
That's so funny because the last time Ben and I were on, somebody called and suggested we go to a Unitarian Universalist church. And so now it's happening again. Not making me believe any more than I did before I got on the show, but quite the coincidence.
Word. Sorry about that.
No, it's all
unfortunate.
Good.
No, but we're excited to hear what you have to say.
So yeah, what I think. Pretty simple. What I think is unique about my religion, specifically the democratic aspect of it. I've been to almost every religion, as an atheist. I was raised in an atheist family. To sort of social network and find out what it's all about. I term it as a sort of rational mysticism, trying to rationalize these vast metaphors about life and the universe and everything. They're very old. But what I think about the uniquity of the Unitarian Universalist Church is that it's got all the founding fathers, like a lot of them in it. It is centralized around a singular purpose, which is not God. It's actually just seeking truth and wisdom. And it's the only church that I've ever been to that you don't get kicked out for not believing something. You just get kicked out for following the process. Like if you cause a disruption and you don't want to do the democratic thing, then they just say, they don't even throw you out. They just say, well, nobody's going to pay attention to your vote now because you've just said you don't believe in the covenant, which is like pretty much just democracy, respecting people, equality, things like that. Things I think every human being on the planet would probably agree with if they were just told the right things.
So I'm a little curious about
you.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great. I'll let Jimmy get in because I think my thing I want to address is maybe a little bit off topic. So I'll probably let Jimmy jump in here if he wants to respond to what you just said, and then I can chime in a second.
We'll play association.
Well, I appreciate that. So I'm kind of, I have the same argument for the Unitarian Universalist Church as I've always had. Now, do I think it's great that people from different walks of life can get together and talk? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. But what does it tell us about the different ideologies that are coming together? Well, first of all, if you can have atheists and Christians and Muslims and everybody kind of, and everybody, right? Not those are just examples, kind of coming together in this kind of brotherhood, conversational type environment. Well, I don't really think that we're dealing with a religion, are we? I mean, the chat poll states, well, my religion is unique, and here's why, but I don't really see that as being unique in the sense of believing in a God or practicing a religion. Yeah, of course, it's unique in the sense that, people who disagree with each other from a philosophical or worldview standpoint, although I do hate that term worldview, but that's kind of a term that resonates with a lot of people. So the way that they see things through the lens of their religion, while they may disagree, they can come together and they can be civil to each other. That's great. That is a great effort. I think that is a very good type of environment to propagate, but I don't think it brings us any closer to identifying why a religion would be more unique or more special than the other. In fact, I would say that it kind of suppresses that idea in a way, because it brings these people together and almost makes them look equally unimportant, right? The thing that everybody's working toward, the common good there, is not religion at all. In fact, they probably have in common that they're not able to achieve a common good by using their religion. So they have to kind of go around that and just say, let's put our religion aside and all try and get along. And so I think that actually helps the argument that, maybe religions are not unique. Maybe religions are not special, and we probably have more in common than we think. So that's my initial thought on that. Before you go ahead, Cyril, I want Ben to chime back in and give his thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to address, and
Bring me
Jimmy
back
kind
to
of
that.
touched on this a little bit. Well, I was just curious about in what you told the call screener. It says, I'm an atheist religious person. And so I wanted to ask because I get that you're in the Unitarian Universalist Church. So I established that you don't believe in a deity, but do you have beliefs in other supernatural things?
Well, we're gonna conflate atheism with agnosticism. I know we're gonna argue about, is agnosticism just another atheism? Of course it is, but I think it's more specific than that. I don't
And that's
think
fine, but more so, I think I guess
the answers to any of those questions, we might as well give up on the search for that. But
I guess
think we already conflated religion with theism.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to ask, and that's why I'm trying to because we know that there are a lot of Buddhists. Well, there are a lot of Buddhists that don't
There's a lot of
identify as theists, right? But they're still religious. So, that's I guess I'm trying to get clarity on what your specific stance is as far as these things go. And I do agree we could go into
it's a sort of rational mysticism where I'm trying to interpret the vast metaphors that we've come up with, which of course now science has a much better answer for, but it's just another language. And what I think is unique about the church that I don't know if we went over is the language that it's organized by. And that's all any of these bodies of organization are. They're political constituents, right? Whether we access power through means of normal avenues such as government, man is still the political animal. And the thing that makes Homo sapiens unique is that it's able to speak, create language in ways that the rest of the animals, and definitely not plants, will ever figure out. And I think the point of the church, which is, again, I've prayed with Muslims, Jews, I've been to synagogues, I've been to LDS, I've practiced with Zen Buddha. I tried them all for the same search. And that's, in my church, that's what they encourage you to do from a very young age. I think religion specifically, instead of theism, and people are probably engaging in the process of delineating these things because it's been thousands of years. But it's not the moral aspect of it; it's the ethic. And again, the people conflate those a lot: morality with ethics. Ethics is the actual praxis of the political access to the power of good, and I think the lack of that is just bad. And we can just term everything outside of the circle of accessing the power of good as just bad. It's innately bad, therefore. Whereas the concept of good is based on a lack of bad, or it's based on the presence of good. It's out from zero. The original digitry being, probably Fibonacci. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician.
So Ben, is this answering your question at this point?
Not really. Not really. Can you? I guess I'm trying to see it's cool that we're discussing that, but I'm trying to see if there are any places where we disagree, so we can go into more depth on
cannabis, that. So I mean, I'm doing well too.
Yeah. So I guess
I don't know. I guess
there's
I don't know what your question.
There's a lot of flowery language.
I think that's what I answered your poll though. That's what's unique about my church. I've been to literally.
Yeah, but it's not a religion. I'm looking for for example, okay, We have in the intro I gave.
It's a set of
we have-
practices, rites, rituals, the service. I pray with people, but I don't believe in God.
But it incorporates multiple
think I'm religious.
religions. It is almost a government. I mean, I would say that, your primary characterization of the Universalist Church or the Unitarian Universalist Church was that it's a democracy, and that, everybody has an equal say. Well, that is not necessarily characteristic of a religion, at least from my experience. In fact, in a democracy where you can question and challenge laws and ideas, you can't really do that in a religion, at least not any that I'm familiar of, and walk away, with a sense of safety or contribution. You're more likely to be ostracized or even worse. And so I don't see that the foundation of what you're talking about, the place and the set of practices translating directly to what we're looking for in the chat poll. So when I started with my cold open today, I said, hey, we're all familiar with the story of the human being born to a human mother that was impregnated forcibly by the God of the heavens, right? The intent there was to get people to say, oh, well, he must be talking about Jesus, when in fact, those stories exist in multiple different cultures, multiple different religions. The Greeks have 4 of their own, in which their patriarch travels to the underworld. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. As a matter of fact, in 4 or 5 times they come back. In one of those stories, there's 2 of them that travel, 1 doesn't come back. But we see the same thing in Norse mythology, like I just mentioned, with Odin, who dies by hanging, being strapped to a tree and is pierced in the side. We got into that caller or that idea with a previous caller. And so the whole premise here of the conversation that we're trying to have is there really isn't an example of a religion that is so unique that we can't point to other areas of where these ideas came from. Okay. With the universal or Unitarian Universalist Church, we can look at Islam, Christianity, Judaism, all talking together and avoiding religion in the end, as far as I'm concerned, and rather having this democratic process take place instead of a religion. Go ahead. You're not muted. Go ahead.
Oh, no. At one point, but maybe I'll go with this. I'll change my little rhetoric here. I'll go with, it's the only church that's Unitarian and Universalist. The only one. So there's just one of them. But I mean,
I don't know if that's true.
I think it is
well, you think it is, but
you know what Unitarianism and Universalism are?
I'm not really familiar with the church. All I can say is that I don't know for sure that is the only organization that operates the way that you're saying. I'm just saying that the church itself is different from.
No, and I'm not saying that.
See, I kind of agree with that.
Right?
Well,
I'm saying they're all Democrats.
Well, but yeah, it sounds more like it's a community. Like, it's great that you all have a community, but it's not built on the same beliefs about the origins of the universe and all that, like the things that we usually associate with religious beliefs, right? Like, even if something doesn't have a theistic, even if a religion isn't theistic, they still share kind of similar supernatural-esque ideas. And it seems like the universal, I cannot speak today. The UU Church is not built on commonalities in those beliefs. Its body has people of all different beliefs that have basically all agreed to say, hey, we're going to get along and we're going to be a community. So, like, I say that this is a community, but it's still not a religion in itself. It's those, like, let me pull up an actual, like, a definition of religion, because maybe if we define that more clearly, we can be on a similar page.
The way that I understand, so most definitions of religion center on a god as a central figure. I know that that's not all encompassing. I mean, there are loopholes to that, but for the most part, everything that I've seen, usually a religion is centered on some kind of deity or multiple deities that kind of dictate how things are supposed to go. And so I haven't found one that stands on its own. Okay. I see them all borrow from each other. And I see them, kind of just not really all that significant. And to your point, Ben, I think that we are kind of looking at a community and not necessarily a dogma or a set of rules and beliefs. I don't know if you have anything more to expand on that
There's a covenant,
Serial,
but it doesn't contain supernatural language. That's why I like it. That's all I really wanted to.
well,
That was my answer to the
glad you
poll.
like it, and I think you should do it. I think you should continue it if it helps you and it helps others and you like it, then by all means. But
There's
you haven't
successful
really
people there that are interested in humanism. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there are. I just, I think I would have loved to get somebody who, I think I would have loved to get somebody who would want to call and defend their faith. But as usual, we have gone through a show.
We're created. I don't think I'm doing the language thing. I think
I have not gotten a priest. I have not gotten an imam, a pastor to call in and say, hey, this is why my religion is the correct one and the other ones are false, or this is why mine is different. We haven't gotten that yet, and that's what we were hoping for. And so I'm going to say this week, atheists won, the clergy 0. So they have their chance to call in some other time. But Serial, I think I really appreciate your call. Ben, did you have any last thoughts for Serial before we get rolling?
No, I think we agree on more than we disagree. Probably, just ends up, like, this discussion ends up just getting like really pedantic, and I'm not a huge fan of getting into like this word and whatever. But I appreciate the call and I appreciate having the discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Serial.
We're going to let you go. Definitely as bad as proselytizing, I think. But here I am.
All right. Well, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the call. We're going to let you go, and we are going to get into reminding everybody what the prompt for this week is. You are in hell. What is your job? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to reply in the comments and tune in at the beginning of next week's episode so you can see if you made it into the top 3 answers. Good luck competing with Ben's. I thought mine was pretty good too. So, good luck to you there. But anyway, we are going to move on and remind all of our viewers that if you do not believe, this is your community and we appreciate you being here. But if you do believe, we don't hate you.
We're just not convinced. I'm tired. I'm
That's
done.
okay. You know what? We skipped the love rings, so we can't get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, I was waiting for the love rings and I was failed. So
that was my bad. I failed you, and you should have hit that button that we talked about earlier, so Richard could have done it. But anyway, we, I think have had somewhat of a successful show, some spicy calls, and I really had a good time working with you, Ben. And I can't wait to talk to you again and work with you again. So, that's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.